Distinguished Alumni Convocation, October 10th, 1975.
Well, of course, it all depends on how we set it up. Oh, I see. Yeah. I know they ran out of programming. 500 programming.
There are many reasons why a college should honor its alumni. I suspect that one of the most important reasons is that by acknowledging what its distinguished alumni have become, a college reflects what it is. And this is a day when academic institutions are struggling to maintain a unique identity, are battling to link the past with the present with the future. Therefore, I think it is especially important, and I believe very proper, to jubilate over the accomplishments of those whose flesh and blood on this stage today confirm Augsburg's purpose, more tangibly than catalog statements describing the school's philosophy and mission. Remember those hours spent agonizing over Augsburg's flag statement? The alumni were involved in that too. Maybe flag statements should be replaced with biographical sketches of alumni. The purpose of the Augsburg Alumni Association is to promote Augsburg College. Too often, such promotion is thought of only in terms of monetary support. Equally important, however, is the support alumni give Augsburg through lives lived in service in the spirit of Jesus. As president of the Augsburg Alumni Association, I know I speak for the thousands of alumni when I say that we are proud of the accomplishments of those honored today. We are proud of the way these people's lives promote Augsburg College. Let's proceed now to the jubilant activities that follow. First, we'll hear a word of welcome from Jeffrey Mueller, president of the Augsburg Student Society, and then we'll move directly into the succeeding parts of the convocation as they are printed in your program.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. A tradition at Augsburg has been to set aside a few minutes during the busy homecoming week for a very special convocation. This year, however, seems to be even a little more special than those of the past. We are in the midst of the Norwegian-American sesquicentennial celebration, a celebration which will be highlighted by the visit of His Majesty Olaf V on Monday. We are on the eve of our nation's 200th birthday. We seem to be steeped in an avalanche of history. But when we take a closer look at that history, we can easily identify three very important words. Those words appear on the front cover of your program today: freedom, heritage, and hallmark. This is not what one would call a rallying, give 'em hell homecoming slogan, as many are accustomed to in high school. But the significance which it holds for those of us who are or have attended Augsburg is to proclaim and to make clear that at Augsburg, the heritage and hallmark is freedom, socially, academically, and spiritually. This morning, we are focusing our attention on the lives of 6 very special people. 6 individuals who, after attending Augsburg, have gone out to carve their marks in their respective fields and professions. Today, we are recognizing their many achievements and contributions which they have made to society and, of course, their alma mater. As soon as I learned that these 6 individuals were to be honored as this year's distinguished alumni, I dug into my files and went back to the years that each of these people spent here to see if, perchance, they were involved in any student government activities. I don't want to take any thunder away from President Anderson or any of the faculty who will be speaking about these distinguished alumni, but I would like to share with you some of the information that I did discover. Most of you probably are not aware that while Mr. Mayhus was here, he held the same position that I now hold, that of President of the Student Society. I'm sure that Mr. Mayhus and I could have a very interesting discussion on how student life under his administration has changed in comparison with the student life as we know it today. Mr. Mayhus was also editor of the Echo at a time when the entire student government budget was a couple $100 or less, which contrasts with our present-day budget of nearly $50,000. According to the Student Society minutes, Mr. Quanbeck served as editor-in-chief of the Echo, as did Mr. Meehouse, and Mr. Quanbeck later served as director of religious activities here on campus. Elias Halling, it seems, was one of two individuals who in November of 1925 were considered for the position of music editor for the Augsburgian Yearbook. However, it seems that that position went to a young lady instead. Not one to quit easily, the following year Mr. Halling was selected as a musical editor of the Echo. He also served on various nominating committees while at Augsburg. As I looked through the records from 1937 and 38, I found numerous references to a young lady named Gladys. But the secretary at the time never attached a last name to her. So frankly, I don't know if it was you, Gladysling, or not, but if it is, then we can see that you were heavily involved in activities during your years at Augsburg. On September 28, 1939, Mr. Earl Lanes served with 4 other students on a committee which was to select a student athletic director. However, the records never do show who they finally selected. I guess they must have had a very tough time finding someone to fill the spot. You see, this was just 2 years after Ernie Anderson and 1 year after Edor Nelson had graduated from Augsburg. Now you tell me, what's an athletic program at Augsburg without Ernie and Edor? In November of 1941, Gloria Bernfett Nelson served on a committee which was to work with the personnel office to help raise the enrollment level. On Monday of this week, I received this year's enrollment figures from the registrar's office. We have 1,630 full-time students. Perhaps Mrs. Nelson could provide us with some valuable insights on how we might raise that level for next year. I hope you have found these little bits of information interesting, and I hope they have brought back some pleasant memories to our distinguished alumni present with us today. Next time, I'll be prepared to tell you some interesting stories that I found about students who are now on the teaching faculty here at Augsburg. There are even a few references to a student by the name of Oscar Anderson, a student who seems to have left his own distinguishing marks on Augsburg. Again, on behalf of the Student Society, faculty, and staff, I would like to extend a very cordial and warm welcome to our distinguished alumni on your return to your alma mater for this very special occasion. Thank you.
For our devotions this morning, I read from the 4th chapter of Philippians, beginning with the 8th verse. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, do, and the God of peace will be with you. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, we are called together to honor certain alumni who have distinguished themselves by the excellence of their achievement. We know that all good gifts come from you alone. We know furthermore that our values are revealed by the people and kinds of gifts we choose to honor. Save us from the idolatry of using your gifts as a yardstick of human worth, but rather let this day be a genuine expression of thanks to you for providing this college with exceptionally talented people and an opportunity to celebrate with them the functions you have enabled them to perform in service to all your people. Amen.
At this point in our program, I would like to take a few moments to recognize those individuals who have contributed their time and effort to put this year's homecoming program and festivities together. First, I would like to express my grateful appreciation to this year's homecoming chairperson, Lori Haslinger. Lori, would you please rise? She has spent many hours organizing this year's events and activities. Lori has received the able assistance of a number of individuals, some of whom I would like to recognize and express my appreciation for the many contributions which they also provided. Among them, Bruce Cunningham, Rich Franson, Deb Berg, Lois Watman, Paul Reed, and Rob Ingleson. I think we should give these individuals a hand for their effort in making homecoming another success. I would like now to focus our attention on another very important element in any homecoming celebration. That, of course, is our athletic program and the many fine, outstanding athletes who make these programs such a success. At Augsburg, we can be particularly proud of our athletic prowess and the many excellent seasons which we have had. We have on the platform the captain and co-captains of the various fall sports. The captain of the volleyball team is Marilyn Pearson. Could we have the volleyball team rise also? Last night, the team added another victory to their list by defeating Carleton. The co-captains of this year's outstanding soccer team are Steve Reiners and Randy Casper. May we have the soccer team rise now? We are confident that the team will take home the conference championship for the third straight year. The Augie football squad has encountered some unfortunate breaks this season, but the team is working hard and we are looking forward to a homecoming victory over the Tommies tomorrow night. This year's co-captains are Steve Swanson and Mark Johnson. And of course, the Augsburg football team. All three sports have done a fine job this year, and I think we should give them all a big hand.
In the interest of time, I'll continue while the members of the choral club take their place with the members of the Augsburg Choir for a number later in the program. I have always looked forward to these convocations honoring distinguished alumni every fall, because somehow or another the spirit of Augsburg dwells uniquely in our midst when we gather people together for this convocation. Welcomes have been expressed by the president of the Alumni Association as well as of the student body, and I want to add my own to the distinguished alumni who have been honored in years past and those who are cited today. This year, we're going to do things a bit differently. Those of you who have been at this convocation before are aware of the usual format, but it was our feeling that we have so many able people on our faculty who are in some way or another, through their discipline or otherwise, related to the fields of interest and accomplishment that are the case for our distinguished alumni, that we would take people from these various areas of the college and ask them to prepare the citations and present them at this time. And so I'm going to call in order on the member of the faculty who will read the citation as the awardee stands here at the platform, and then it will be my privilege to present the citation, and we will hear a brief greeting from each of the persons who today become distinguished alumni of Augsburg College. So I'll begin by asking Dr. Einar Johnson, Professor of Education, if he will come forward and present the citation for Dr. O. Miking Mehus. I am tempted to say his whole name, Dr. Oscar Miking Mehus. Dr. Johnson. Stand right there.
Dr. Anderson, distinguished alumni, and friends of Augsburg. One of the 8 graduates of the college division of Augsburg College and Theological Seminary, class of 1916, was O. Miking Mehus. The college catalog, printed in both Norwegian and English, issued a charge to its graduating classes, which is the most apt description of the life of service which Dr. Mehus has given to his college, his students, and the world at large. And now this charge is as follows. Den som vil bli stor iblant eder, han skal være eders tjener. Whosoever would become great among you shall be your servant. Aware of his cultural heritage, keenly interested in the problems of a changing society, and motivated by a love of scholarly pursuits and of his fellow man, Dr. Mehus has had and continues to have a distinguished career. To cite just a few of his many accomplishments and honors: the Master of Arts and the Doctor of Philosophy degrees, Principal and Superintendent of Schools, Professor of Education at Wittenberg College, Professor of Education, State College, Mayville, Professor of Sociology, State College, Maryville, Missouri, President of State Teachers College, Winona, Minnesota, Chief of Vocational Rehabilitation and Educational Division of Veterans Administration, Kansas City, Missouri, Dean, Student Work Program, School of the Ozarks, a commendation from the King of Norway and a medal from the King of Denmark, Federal Civil Servant of the Year in Kansas City, active in peace organizations, world affairs, American Legion, social welfare, urban league, Scandinavian organizations, including, of course, his beloved Hallinglage, historical associations, author of a book and a scores of articles for education, social science, and religious journals. Dr. Mayos has had his biographical sketch in Who's Who in America since 1944. He continues to be active and to serve his community as the operator and owner of Old Shepherd's Bookshop, Branson, Missouri. Mr. President, I am honored to present to you Dr. O. Miking Mayos to receive the Distinguished Alumni Citation from Augsburg College.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Mayos, it is my privilege to give to you at this time the Distinguished Alumnus Citation presented to you on nomination by the Board of Regents and the Alumni Association of Augsburg College, Minneapolis, Minnesota, in grateful recognition of dedicated service and outstanding leadership which have notably exemplified the ideals of Augsburg as an institution of Christian higher education in America. Congratulations, Dr. Mayos.
President Anderson, Dr. Johnson, and friends of Augsburg. I appreciate the honor that comes to me today. That honor belongs to my parents and to Augsburg College, for they made me what I am. My parents, God-fearing members of the Lebanon Lutheran Free Church near Brinsmead, North Dakota, which they helped establish, reared me to take for granted that after I was graduated from high school, that they would enroll me at Augsburg College. My mother, Anna Meaching, and my father, Mikkel K. Mayhus, came from Hallingdal, Norway, to America in 1892 and 1882, both homesteaded in North Dakota. They planned to help me finance my college education by supplementing the money I earned in the summer months, teaching religious school at $35 a month, working in a grocery store, taking pictures of farm homes, and working in harvest and thrashing fields. Often the grasshoppers and droughts interfered with the plans of farmers in North Dakota. One year, my father, hard-pressed for money, found it difficult to help me as usual. 'Twas then my mother calmly said, "I'll just sell my 40 acres. That 40 acres, my mother's homestead, bordered Silver Lake and furnished not only water, but pasture for the livestock. But my father managed, and I, as usual, continued at Augsburg. Much credit must go to the better half part, my mother, a truly great and resourceful pioneer, a leader in the community and in our Lutheran Free Church congregation. My father, educated in Norway, became a teacher. He continued to read and to study in America. He enjoyed discussing religion and philosophy with our ministers. The high school teachers in our town brought their classes to our farm in the evenings. There my father would explain to them the stars in the heavens. He spoke in terms of light years. He said that he used that measure of distance long before the days of the astronauts. Augsburg College gave me the opportunity to develop qualities of leadership, to think matters through, and to fight for my convictions. The latter is stressed by the motto of our class of 1916, the immortal words of Ibsen, "Det som du vær fullt og helt, og ikke stykkevis og delt." In English, these words say, "Be what you are with all your heart and not in pieces and in part." In other words, dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone. Disciplinary problems just did not exist at Augsburg in my day. There was no dean of men. An older student acted as proctor in each floor of the old main and in the wooden dormitory. In those days, nearly half of the student body came from Norway. English was practically a foreign language in my day. No student from Norway needed to go through a long process of Americanization, for he came to America imbued with the ideals of democracy. The farmers of Norway were not peasants. They owned their own land and practiced democracy in their political life. The former young citizens of Norway, after they were graduated from Augsburg, became leaders in religion, in education, and in other professions of their chosen land. A favorite professor at Augsburg, Peter A. Svegen, headed the English department, taught me right up to my last day, my last minute at Augsburg. As I bade him goodbye, I said, "I've learned lots of English from you, Professor Svegen." Without a smile, this great Norwegian American said, "A great deal, Mr. Mayhus." And so I repeat, this honor comes to me today because of a great deal I learned at Augsburg College and from my parents.
Thank you, Dr. Mayhus. And I would like to present to this convocation audience this morning the widow of Professor Svegen, Mrs. Svegen, who is an honored guest with us today, and she's seated right down here. Mrs. Svegen. We're so happy to have you here today. The Reverend Caleb Quanbeck is our next recipient of the citation, and the citation will be read by Dr. Eugene Skibby, Professor of Religion here at Augsburg College. Pastor Quanbeck, Dr. Skibby.
President Anderson, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, future historians will look back to assess the contributions made by Christian missionaries in the 19th and 20th centuries in helping to create the world community, the global village in which we now live. For almost 50 years, Caleb Quanbeck has been an integral part of that worldwide movement. Born in Annetta, North Dakota in 1902, he graduated from Augsburg Academy in 1921 and from the college in 1924. He began his career as high school principal in Max, North Dakota. He entered Augsburg Theological Seminary in 1925, only to interrupt his studies after 1 year to prepare for work as an educator and a missionary in Madagascar. He was director at the primary school and high school in Manasoa, Madagascar, from 1928 until 1935, and station missionary in Bediuki Sud in 1935. After returning to Augsburg Seminary and receiving his theological degree in 1938, he again went to Madagascar to become the director of a primary school, high school, and Bible school, the superintendent of the Southwest Synod, the vice president of the entire Malagasy Lutheran Church, and the chairman of the American Lutheran Mission in that country. For the past 5 years, he has been the business manager and treasurer of the Malagasy Lutheran Theological Seminary and the American Lutheran Mission. A small town in North Dakota, a small college in Minneapolis, leadership in the Lutheran Church in Madagascar, those are the fibers of life in the global village. The Malagasy government has bestowed on him its high honors, the Chevalier de l'Ordre de Mérite and the Chevalier de l'Ordre de Madagascar. Now, Mr. President, I am honored to present to you Caleb Quanbeck, educator, missionary, and churchman, to receive the Distinguished Alumnus Citation from Augsburg College.
Pastor Quanbeck, I am indeed honored and pleased to be able to present this citation to you. The citations are all in the same order, have the same wording, therefore I will not repeat the citation. But I want to say that we are extremely fortunate to have Pastor and Mrs. Quanbeck here for this convocation. He told me last night that after 49 years in Madagascar, he has just purchased the tickets to go back in November. It's a privilege to present this to you, Pastor Quanbeck.
Mr. President, dear friends of Augsburg. Augsburg has been interested in missions for a long time. And as I receive this citation, I take it to mean that it is a tribute to the work of the missionaries who have been in Madagascar ever since 1888. Altogether, more than 40 Augsburg graduates have gone to Madagascar as missionaries. We have a famous speech in America that begins with the words 77 years ago. We can apply that to our history of missions in Madagascar. 77 years ago, a graduate of Augsburg came to Fort Dauphin in southeast Madagascar. He had spent some time in Tenerife, in the capital of Madagascar, studying the Malagasy language. He was conducted to Fort Dauphin by one who has been called the Livingston of the Norwegians in Madagascar, Mr. Nielsen Lund. They arrived in Fort Dauphin in September in 1888, the first Augsburg graduate to be a missionary in Madagascar. 2 years later, another Augsburg graduate started the work in southwest Madagascar, Reverend Eric Tau. He too was brought there by the Livingston of Madagascar. Since that time, other missionaries, graduates of Augsburg, have gone out to work there. One of the best known perhaps is Dr. Dearness, who went out there after graduating from the college and seminary here at Augsburg and studying medicine at the Hamlin University. He went out to Madagascar in 1900 and worked there until his death in 1943. Dr. Mayos was telling us the other night or last night that he was one of the men who worked for coeducation at Augsburg. I'd like to present to you one of the first graduates of that coeducational class after it was accepted. My wife, Connie Jerstedt. She was born in Madagascar, and we speak of her as a Tanosi, a Malagasy with white skin. But she went out there as a missionary with me in 1926 we left Madagascar, or we left America. Some of our work out there has been with the Malagasy in schoolwork and other activities. It was mentioned here that I have some medals from Madagascar. I'd like to explain what they are, and they will show you how the Malagasy appreciate what we have been doing out there. This one medal is called the Chevalier de l'Ordre du Mérite. It was presented to me at a time when our school from Montessori has moved to Bézard, and at the dedication of the school at Bézard, in appreciation of the work that the mission had been doing in schoolwork in that part of Madagascar. The man who presented it was the Vice President of Madagascar. He himself had gone to our school. He had been born on Evil Day, later was brought to our school in Montessori, and was trained there by Dr. Dearness, and became later the Vice President of Madagascar. The other medal was presented to me as a representative of the American missions at the time of the 100th anniversary of the Malagasy Lutheran Church. And being that I was the oldest American missionary on the field, I received this medal as a tribute to the American missions for the work that they had been doing in Madagascar since the time that the first graduate of Augsburg arrived there in 1888 until the year 1967, when they celebrated their 100th anniversary. Thank you.
I remember just 12 years ago, when it was my privilege to be inaugurated as the president of Augsburg College, I received special greetings from that Malagasy vice president, because he knew of the connection between his own life and Augsburg College. To present the citation to our next honored guest, to Mr. Elias Holling, will be Dr. James Carlson of the music department here at Augsburg College. I'll ask Mr. Holling to come forward, and also Dr. James Carlson.
Hello, Augies. As our entire nation gets ready to celebrate 200 years of existence, Elias J. Holling has individually celebrated nearly 50 years of music teaching in the state of Minnesota. During these 50 years, Professor Holling has received special citations from many sources, including the Governor of Minnesota and the Minnesota Music Educators Association. He is listed in Who's Who in America and Who's Who in Higher Education. After graduating from Augsburg, Professor Holling earned his advanced degrees from Northwestern University and did further study at the University of Southern California and the University of Minnesota. He spent 40 years in a dual role as professor and administrator at Mankato State University and is currently Professor Emeritus. Professor Holling probably does not remember a 1941 Mankato State University graduate by the name of Carlson, but my dad speaks very highly of your fine work. Upon his retirement last year, in addition to the usual accolades, Mankato State University named their performance facility the Elias J. Holling Recital Hall.
Mr. President, I am honored to present to you Elias J. Halling to receive the Distinguished Alumnus Citation from Augsburg College.
Thank you, Dr. Carlson. A nomination by the Board of Regents and the Alumni Association of Augsburg College, I am happy to present to you Elias J. Halling, the Distinguished Alumnus Citation. Congratulations.
Dr. Carlson, President Anderson, and friends of Augsburg. It's our good fortune that in life and in living brings with it many memories, and have been fortunate enough to have attended a college like my alma mater, Augsburg. There is an additional bonus of this same type, many good memories. I came on campus this morning. I can imagine a whole host of these memories of my student days flooded into my mind, and it would indeed be very tempting to spend some time this morning reminiscing about those times. And I'm sure the committee, which made the arrangements for this very gratifying convocation, had this in mind when it suggested that our responses be held to 3 or 4 minutes. And the suggestion is well taken. But reminisce as one may, and even at length, as we did last evening, well, I think it would usually boil down to one overriding thought, and that is that the Augsburg spirit, which created and has continued to sustain and strengthen our college, is ever present in our minds. For me to have been invited by my dear alma mater, which has added such a full measure to my life, to participate in this very special way, means more to me than I am able to express adequately. But I believe the novelist philosopher Camus expresses it quite well when he said, "Do not go before me, for I may not follow. Do not go behind me, for I may not lead. Only go beside me and be my friend." And this is what Augsburg means to me and to many others. On behalf of my family, my wife Lydia, and our daughter Beverly, and me, I want to express deepest appreciation to you, President Anderson, to your appropriate committees, and to the Board of Regents for this beautiful gift from Augsburg, which I shall always cherish. Thank you.
I shall ask Ms. Gladys Ling to come to the platform or to the podium and recognize Dr. Ann Meisner, Director of Nursing Education at Augsburg College, who will present the citation. Ms. Ling, Dr. Meisner.
Mr. President, honored guests, colleagues, Gladys Ling represents a tradition of excellence, both in the Augsburg tradition and in the tradition of nursing. After graduating from Lutheran Deaconess Hospital School of Nursing, she came to Augsburg. While here, she was active in a wide variety of organizations. I think you had the right Gladys. She graduated second in her class. From that time on, she combined service to our city to educating herself further. Between times of working as an instructor in the Bismarck Evangelical Hospital School of Nursing, she also obtained a Bachelor's of Science in Public Health Nursing, a Master's of Education from the University of Minnesota. She maintained increasing responsibility at the Swedish Hospital School of Nursing. Today she continues the same cycle. She works in the educational services of the Metropolitan Medical Center, doing the vital work of teaching new personnel the technical skills for adapting to a large medical center. She maintains her old extracurricular interests in a variety of professional, religious, and ecological organizations. In her basic self-effacing manner, she doesn't view her work as outstanding or as unusual. I differ with her. Mr. President, I'm honored to present to you Gladys Ling to receive the Distinguished Alumna Citation from Augsburg College.
Thank you, Dr. Meisner. It's my privilege to present this citation to Gladys Ling, who is, with me, a member of the class of 38. Gladys, congratulations.
Well, I'm pleased to represent nursing education. I think it needs representation many times and it doesn't get it. And so, as I have a chance, I will say a few words about it. I know that many of you are familiar with the change in the setting for the hospital, for the various schools of nursing. And the hospital school, of course, has declined in the last 20 years, probably 50%. And the baccalaureate schools have increased, or at least tripled, in those times. And the associate degree, of course, is increasing every day. And this changes the role of the hospital from being an operating institution of a school to providing clinical setting for it. And also, of course, the hospital has increasing responsibilities for the in-service or the continuing education of the graduates who come to the school. This is not only because of the decline of the hospital school, because of also the recognition of the fact that any new graduate is just a beginner, and she cannot cope with the complex system of care that we have in the hospitals today, and with the accountability she has to assume, the responsibility, the autonomy, and so on. And so in all this, I don't think we need to worry that we are losing the personal touch too much. Sometimes we maybe feel we do, but there still is a possibility. There is much hope. Nursing education is moving forward, is accepting help from other professions, and more or less, we might say, getting out of their ivory tower and realizing that many people have a lot of contributions to make. And I would like to commend Augsburg for its involvement in nursing education. It has provided instruction for many diploma schools, as it did when I was at Swedish. And I hope that in the future it will, excuse me, will increase as far as its involvement and in providing whatever it can in the world of nursing, and of course my field of nursing education, which after all is the beginning of any nursing. This, the other things which of course we have increasing now is the knowledge the public has as far as about health matters and so on. We feel they are becoming more and more sophisticated. This demands a lot more of us in the health field. And so patient education is one of the major activities now in many institutions. I believe that this is good. I have much hope, as I said, for nursing and for education in general. This, then, I would just like to say that I wish Augsburg the very best as far as any future they have, and I do appreciate very much receiving this citation. Thank you.
I would now like to call upon Mr. Earl Lanus to come forward to the podium and ask Mr. James Billings of the Department of Economics and Business Administration to read the citation for Mr. Earl Lanus.
Mr. President, Mr. Lanus, distinguished guests and friends of Augsburg, Earl V. Lanus displays the versatility of the 20th century man. During his years of study at Augsburg College, his activities ranged from choir, basketball, football, and managing varsity sports to International Relations Club and the Aristotelian Society. He was born in the middle of the First World War. He graduated from college and into the beginning of the Second World War. Upon graduating from Augsburg during that fateful summer of 1940, he joined the U.S. Navy for a career in the military. During this career, he specialized in supply and logistics, but he also served as an instructor at several colleges, including Harvard, and as an advisor to the Korean Navy. When he left the service, he retired at the rank of commander. Soon after retiring from this career, he completed his master's degree in business administration and launched another career. He is presently a senior executive at Western Microwave Laboratories, where I presume he feels on the edge of the 21st century. Mr. President, I'm honored to present to you Earl V. Lanus to receive the Distinguished Alumnus Citation from Augsburg College.
Earl, we appreciate that you and your wife have come all the way from Los Altos, California to receive this citation, and it is my privilege to present it to you at this time. Congratulations.
My ego says leave these glasses in my pocket, but common sense says put them on. I am indeed grateful to be present today and receive this honor. At the same time, I am humble in that recognition such as this involves a certain amount of chance and many who deserve recognition never receive it. I have always felt that people who work in the area of human care services with dedication and sensitivity deserve more recognition than they usually receive. The contribution of Augsburg graduates is significant in the areas of teachers for our young, care for the aged, the sick, the handicapped, and the unwanted, ministers for the spiritual needs, and counselors for the troubled. The emphasis which Augsburg places in educating the student to become aware of his responsibilities to God, to his fellow man, and to the world about him, especially prepare the graduate to serve in these fields with concern and dedication. These qualities become increasingly more important as our materialistic society tends to ignore and become calloused to the needs and the suffering and the loneliness of an increasing number of people who have become separated from family and become dependent for one reason or another on others for survival. In the black and have maintained their desired enrollment these past few years. To me, this is not a coincidence, but rather a recognition by the alumni, the community, and the college, which emphasize educational programs which send forth graduates who have the Christian philosophy of purpose and service. I am proud and impressed with the accomplishments and progress Augsburg has made in preparing graduates who serve with distinction, whether it be with or without recognition. Thank you very much.
I want to be sure that they get those citations and not leave them here. Mrs. Gloria Burnfoot Nelson is the final recipient of our Distinguished Alumnus Citation today, and I'm going to ask her to come to the podium and recognize Mildred Joel, the acting dean of the college, who at this time will read the citation for Gloria Burnfoot Nelson. Gloria?
Gloria Burnfoot Nelson's professional activities have been primarily in the fields of education and business. She has been a teacher in high school, a dean of women at both Waldorf College and Gustavus Adolphus College, and a member of the Board of Regents and the President's Advisory Board of Augsburg College. As a student at Augsburg, she completed a major in English, but she was also interested in music. She sang in the choir, the women's quartet, and various other musical groups. In addition, she was a member of the Writers' Club and held offices in the Women's Self-Government Association. Her graduate studies were in the area of student personnel work. At Syracuse University, she received the Master of Arts in Education degree and later attended the Columbia University Teachers College. Following her marriage to George N. Nelson, Gloria worked in various capacities with George Nelson Realtors and as vice president for George Nelson Associates, a consulting organization working with institutions, businesses, and community groups to assess needs and objectives and develop involvement activities designed to help the individual effect social change. Gloria has been actively involved in several professional and community groups, including the American Association of University Women, the American Lutheran Church, Trinity Lutheran Congregation, Lutheran Deaconess Hospital, Minneapolis United Fund, to name only a few. Since 1974, she has served as Executive Secretary for the Norwegian-American 1975 Sesquicentennial Association in Minneapolis. She has therefore played a very important role in planning for the many events which are being held in our city this weekend. It is indeed appropriate that we should honor her at this time for her contributions to the church through education, administration, and music, and for her contributions to the community in business and social organizations. Mr. President, I am honored to present to you Gloria Berntveit Nelson to receive the Distinguished Alumna Citation from Augsburg College.
Once more, on behalf of the Board of Regents and the Alumni Association, I am pleased to present this citation to Gloria Berntveit Nelson. At the last meeting of the Board of the Sesquicentennial Association, I asked for a 3-hour leave of absence for Gloria so she could be here at this convocation today, and it was graciously granted. We wish her well in all of the activities that are taking place this week. It's a privilege to present this, not only for the service which she has rendered in other ways, but also as the first woman member of the Board of Regents at Augsburg College. Gloria, congratulations. Don't forget it.
Try not to. Set a record. Ms. Joel, Dr. Anderson, Mr. Norman, and members and friends of the Augsburg College community. I am deeply appreciative of the honor which my alma mater has bestowed on me today. I suppose it is not uncommon with those of us who have been cited that it is accepted in a spirit of recognition that there are many, whom I shall not name individually, who really share this honor. Those who gave me life, and those who have nurtured and disciplined and taught and guided, and have given to me unstintingly of their love and experience. And it is with these countless that I would like to share this moment and this experience. It is also not uncommon that those of my generation from Augsburg have now or soon will be experiencing almost a unique experience among Augsburg alumni. We are able to say that we have had almost a full half century, or perhaps more or a little less, where our lives have, in a way that perhaps could not occur today, been inextricably interwoven with that of this institution. Augsburg, in a sense, educated me long before I matriculated, and continued to do so long after my formal education. I am reminded, when I think of this, of a passage from Ernest Hemingway's Death in the Afternoon, where he says, "There are some things which cannot be learned quickly, and time, which we all have, must be paid heavily for their acquiring. They are the very simplest things, and because it takes a man's life to know them, the little that each man gets from life is very costly, and the only heritage he has to leave." In a bicentennial and sesquicentennial year, we both speak and hear much about our heritage. And despite the frenetic pace of my work in the past months, There have been times for reflection when I have pondered about the rock from which I was hewn, and I have found it to be a goodly heritage. Hopefully, there are yet some years, in which to utilize the lessons of the past and to grow and to serve with an open mind and a willing spirit. Thank you.
Before we turn to the last number on the program, I want to take this opportunity to welcome and recognize those who have stood by, the people who are honored today, and I'm going to ask if Mrs. Mayhus will stand, Mrs. Quanbeck will stand, Mrs. Hulling will stand, Mrs. Lanus will stand, and George Nelson will stand. Will you stand up and take the applause of this group? Turn around and let them see you. Now, I have been given the whole list of those who received this honor in years past, and I'm not going to take the time to read the list. I am, however, going to ask our distinguished President Emeritus Bernard Christensen to stand, and then I want all of the former distinguished alumni recipients to stand. Dr. Christensen, will you stand first, please? And now will those who have been on this platform in years past and received this citation please stand and receive our applause. Thank you. I don't have any announcements, at least none were handed me. I know that there is a luncheon for the distinguished alumni and their guests at 11:45. One of the traditions of this convocation has been to hear the number composed by Dr. Leland Saturn, who this year is spending an entire year in Bergen, Norway at the conservatory, Look to This Day. Dr. Carlson, the band, the Augsburg Choir, and the Choral Club. After that, the benediction.
let us rise for the benediction, expressed in the words of St. Paul, but also expressive, I believe, of the sentiments of our distinguished alumni in their remarks. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let all people know your forbearance. The Lord is at hand. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will keep your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Go in his peace. Amen.